So the Bard, what have we got in terms of changes suggested through the Unearthed Arcana for the Expert class? Well, first off, Bard weapon proficiencies have been reduced to just simple weapons. So this will remove the popular hand crossbow by the looks, the longsword and the rapier. It appears to me that, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, that the short sword has been categorized as a simple weapon. So if you're using a bard and you wanted to use a short sword, you will still be able to do so because it has been classified as a simple weapon rather than a martial weapon. But if you're used to using a hand crossbow, a longsword or a rapier, you're probably going to get annoyed. I don't quite understand where we're going with this because they were such popular choices for playing a bard in the first place. Starting equipment is much the same, but you get less options. You don't get to choose quite so much, but you do get to choose whether you have the starting equipment or you spend 100 gold pieces, which as far as I can tell at this present time is probably the least amount of gold starting equipment or starting gold you get for any of the classes presented so far in the Unearthed Arcana. Bards choose from the arcane spell list with limitations to divination, enchantment, illusion and transmutation, which frankly actually makes a lot of sense. But the thing is with the bard is it usually had a lot of diversity as well, didn't it? And so have they taken that diversity away by setting in these limits? So I don't know, we'll see how that all turns out. They have tried to open things up with other options. There's only I'm going to say it now, okay, I will try not to laugh too much. There's only a limited range of healing spells available to a bard, and you get them at level 2 onward. But you won't get access to cure wounds. There's none of that. No more cure wounds is going to be accessible. You won't get mass cure wounds. You won't be able to raise the dead, and you won't be able to use resurrection, the spell. Those things are off the cards as far as I can tell at this present point. The only way to pick them up would be through magical secrets, that particular feature. And that has changed quite significantly as well. Bards now prepare spells rather than have to learn spells from the bard list, which I'm very happy to see this change. That's less complexity for players to think about. You don't have to worry about, I have my prepared spells, I have my known spells, and then I have my spell slots. So if we get rid of known spells, I'm quite happy. And this is kind of how the bard kind of used to work. So we're kind of returning back to what we used to do, if I remember right. This also opens up players to using utility spells, because when you're locked down to known spells, you tend to just pick the things that are going to do damage. Even though you are a bard, and most bard players, when they're playing a bard, would always kind of steer towards taking the buffing spells, or things that would improve their character in some way, or the party. Biotic Inspiration is a reaction rather than a bonus action now. Now, why have they changed the use of Biotic Inspiration to a reaction rather than a bonus action? Well, as far as I can tell, that's to stop players forgetting to use it, because there were occasions where people would forget to use it, the time would pass, and then that would be lost. It also means less tracking, so that means players don't need to track that they have Biotic Inspiration, and the Bard player doesn't need to remember that a player has Biotic Inspiration to remind them to try to use it. The only problem I see with this is narratively it's out of place time-wise, because what it suggests is when this reaction takes place, suddenly the Bard pops out a lute or starts singing, and then apparently the singing or playing an instrument, I don't suggest that they're playing an instrument, but suddenly the singing grants them this inspiration, this one situation. It's kind of a little bit odd time-wise, but mechanically it's probably going to do the job it needs to do. Biotic Inspiration can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. not your charisma modifier. So this is the way of the future, people. There's no getting away from this. This is not going to change. So if you're unhappy with this change, I don't think it's a particularly significant change. What it does mean is that lower levels, when you have a high charisma, you're not going to be able to use your Bardic Inspiration as many times as you would like. And at much higher levels, you're going to have access to Bardic Inspiration a lot more, because proficiency bonus will essentially... at such higher level, nobody's ever really going to wind up playing in the top tiers of the game anyway, so they're probably not going to feel the effect. So I think actually ultimately in this, you probably kind of got fairly well nerfed by making this change, because when you start off at level 1, you're only got a proficiency bonus of +2, and you can get your charisma modifier to at least a +3 at starting level 1. So yeah, you're going to probably feel that a little bit. The Bard gets expertise in 2 skills at level 2 and level 9, and this is going to be rather than getting it at level 3 and 10. You used to get your expertise at level 3 and 10, now you get it at level 2 and 9, so you're getting it sooner. Oh, I almost forgot, one of the big changes to Bardic Inspiration and how it works is it has a new ability. It allows you to heal. You can transfer some healing to a creature using your Bardic Inspiration or your allies. I think this is a much more unique way to heal as a bard. It's nice to see. I actually like this idea. What it does, though, is you're still taxing from a resource that hasn't really increased. If anything, this resource has actually diminished. And now we're going to use it for healing. So you may wind up with your bard spending all of your Bardic Inspiration on healing, because they don't have healing spells, apart from Healing Word at level 2. But you don't use it for anything else because you're using it for healing. I think there's going to be a problem with the interplay between when you use it and for what you use it for, okay? One of the things I did notice is that the Song of Rest is gone, which is kind of unfortunate, as it was a nice little buff to hit points during a short rest if you used short rests. I'm not a fan of short rests, but I do accept that it was a nice little buff. But it also was almost an unlimited healing resource, potentially, particularly at high levels. Like, you got so many hit points at higher levels that you probably weren't going to run out. So suddenly you get to use your Song of Rest every single time you do your hit point expenditure. I don't know if what they have in mind to replace this is a good solution. I kind of feel like the Song of Rest, and I've seen the Song of Rest used at my table many times. I know other people have never used it, but I don't know that I like that change that much. Although I would have liked the idea of having the Song of Rest taking place during a long rest rather than a short rest. Now, that's just me. Songs of Restoration grants a table of very good spells, extra spells that you don't normally get. You don't have to prepare these spells, but you would have normally had access to those spells, these extra spells that you're getting, if the designers didn't restrict the original spell list for the bard. Like, I believe it's Healing Word, Lesser Restoration, Greater Restoration, there's a mass Healing Word, and there's something else that off the top of my head I don't remember. They're all very good spells. Something that allows you to move faster or more quickly. It's not high on my list of things that you would want as a bard, frankly, but I thought I'd at least mention those. The Bard subclass features are granted, as I said, at level 3, 6, 10 and 14, which is hopefully going to become the standard for all classes. Jack of all trades has been moved from level 2 to level 5, which is quite a big change. And it's also changed how you can use it. So that means you can only use it, your Jack of all trades, with an ability check that uses skill proficiency. So whether it's an ability check or a skill check, it doesn't matter, but it must be a skill that has proficiency attached to it. What does that mean? That means that you can't use it for initiative, whereas in the past we would use Jack of all trades with initiative, or in the odd situation or rare situation, a spell casting ability check when using Dispel Magic. There is a feature that requires you to use a mechanic that is basically a spell casting ability check, and that would suddenly remove that option. I don't know that the impact on the spellcasting ability check is going to be huge. I think the effect on initiative will be. I don't think that the designers originally had planned for it to be used in that way, and they're getting rid of a loophole that they didn't want to create in the first place. Feats are still gained at the same character level, or you can boost your ability score with a feat. So there's actually now a feat that gives you a plus 2 to an ability score. I don't know. I can't even remember if the feat that they've created that boosts just your ability score is just a plus 2 to one of them, or you get a plus 1 to one and a plus 1 to another, or is it plus 1 to 2 different ones? I can't remember what that was exactly. I've already said that I'm not a fan of hard baking feats into the game. Font of Biotic Inspiration lets you keep your Biotic Inspiration if a 1 is rolled on the dice, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's always sort of sucky when you roll a 1, but it has also been shifted from level 5 when you get it to level 7, so you've got to wait a bit longer now. Counter Charm is gone. No great loss in my opinion, because I've only ever seen it used a few times, and every time it's ever been used, most people have not been very happy with the end result of Counter Charm. What I would say though, by removing Counter Charm, being able to counter a charm effect is iconic for a bard. So by removing that feature, because that feature didn't work that we had before, and not providing it with something that's better, that would work more effectively, we've kind of taken something away from the bard. And the bard is a hard class to deal with, frankly. To design around for the bard, I would imagine, is awfully difficult. Magic Secrets is now level 11 and 15, rather than level 10, 14, and 18. Ooh, that's a bit of a... I feel like I was looking at that and it's like, is that my imagination? Have they just done that? So you get less magical secret spells, but more flexibility to change them out, which I don't understand why they would do that, because it's really weird. Aren't dungeon masters already allowing people to swap out spells if they selected spells that they think were a mistake? You know, if I have my magical secrets and I selected 2 spells and I don't really use them that much and they're not as good as I thought they would be, can I swap them out Dungeon Master? I know I would just let my players do that, but maybe that's just not taking place at other tables with other Dungeon Masters, or maybe this is done because they have to contend with the likes of Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League. Maybe that's why they're doing that. I kind of feel like you got a lot less than you had before by changing magical secrets in this way. I'm not a fan of it myself. Superior Biotic Inspiration is now gained at level 18. It's an level 18 feature, not a level 20 capstone feature. Thank God for that. You get 2 extra Biotic Inspirations, even if you haven't run out of them. So, based on the rules for it essentially are the same. In the past, you would only get 1 of these. Now you get 2. Which frankly to me is still a giant joke and laughable for such a high level feature. We're now, even if we're not talking about level 20, we're talking about level 18, and we're still mucking around with dice mechanics. I just don't understand where their head is at. I know this is what they try to sell you. We try to sell you codified rules, and we try to sell you dice mechanics. And the more dice mechanics and codified rules we can sell you, the more stuff you will buy later on because you think you need it. I don't like superior Bardic Inspiration, frankly, myself. And the fact that it is a feature at high level misses the point completely. Okay, so let's get on to what do you actually get at level 20. Bards now get an epic boon at level 20. These are sort of the stuff you would get from the Dungeon Master Guide. I've been informed, apparently, that the epic boons are now much more powerful than they were before, and also too that beyond level 20 you can take more epic boons if you want, based on the number of experience points you earn, or you can take more feats. The choice is epic boons or feats. It does stipulate a specific epic boon for the bard, but it gives you the option to take that or not take it and just take whatever epic boon you would like. This will wind up being a mixed bag of usefulness, because some of those epic boons are very good. I wouldn't say they are level 20 features at all, but I haven't seen up close and really analysed the new epic boons apparently that they have. But also too, even some of the feats probably won't fulfill what you would need to be giving somebody at level 20. Okay, if you've ever played at level 20, you'll know what I'm talking about. A lot of the stuff that they give you is actually, it doesn't make sense. So, ultimately, what is my opinion of the Bard? I think the Bard beyond level 6 doesn't know what it should be. I think the designers are really unsure what to do. The Bard is very hard to design for. If you look at it historically and how it was designed and built, there was a lot of restrictions. You got a lot of stuff. It was borrowing from here, there, and everywhere. And unfortunately, the designers have relied on silly dice mechanics, in my opinion, because frankly, this class is a Frankenstein monster. It always was a Frankenstein monster, okay? And now it is definitely a Frankenstein monster. I don't know that people, I mean, I'm sure there'll be things that people are happy with, but I just don't feel like it is going to give people who play bards and love bards what they were looking for in the first place.